we will mainly focus on what is an API, how do you use it for a pipeline, and how to bring it all together with machine learning and visualization, right? What is Cats of BGC? Cats of BGC, again, is a Philippine phenomenon that happened around February or March this year. And the idea there is that the Shangri-La fort actually tried to basically move the cats. And it created a social media of epic proportions. You know, the Facebook page of Shangri-La at the fort was actually bombarded with negative reviews. Twitter was filled with a lot of negative tweets, and basically it was a bad storm of things that Shangri-La had to wade through, right? So this presented the perfect opportunity for me to, you know, try to analyze the Twitter data. So let's dive right in. Yes, that's one of my favorite cat gifs of all time. Okay, so let's talk about APIs. What is an API? An API is an application programming interface, and put simply, an API defines how you interact with the software. It's a command structure that allows you to programmatically talk with any software. That includes your computers, your laptops, the apps you use, and the websites you visit. All of them actually have some form of API with them. Now, along with an API, we have what is called a representational state transfer. It basically defines how a web service, the architecture of a web service, and how you load the different HTTP protocols. So together, an API, a RESTful API, meaning an API that a web service API that follows a particular architecture, which is called colloquially as a RESTful API. That is the backbone of how modern web applications serve user data. So just as an example, we have, it's a bit too tiny, but the general idea is you have a request, you send out an HTTP GET request, pass it through an API endpoint. It depends what type of API is available to different web services. And a response is given, usually in the form of either XML or JSON, which is JavaScript object notation, right? Again, it's a bit too small, but this one is actually a JSON. If you don't know what JSON is, it is the common object or representation that JavaScript uses to store its data. Right? It's sort of like a dictionary in Python, but basically it's a key and then a value. So something like name, and then inside the name you have first, and then the actual first name of the person, last, and then the actual last name of the person. So that's the general look of a JSON, right? Okay, now that we know how an API works, you give out the request, pass it through an endpoint, you get a response. Let's talk about the Twitter API. Twitter, like a lot of modern web applications, has a RESTful API. And the reason why they like using RESTful APIs is because part of the business strategy that web applications use is to sell the data you use. That's not, I mean, it's a bad truth, but it's a reality. Companies actually sell their data to other companies for use, right? So the reason why a lot of web applications have RESTful API is so that they can analyze your data, extract information from that data, and it's no different with Twitter. Now, one of those APIs is the search API endpoint, which allows anyone with an API key to retrieve data on public tweets. It's the same API that the search function in the Twitter homepage uses. It uses the same API, okay? So, I'm using, in my analysis, I'm trying to access public tweets on a particular hashtag and a particular topic using the search API. Now, obviously, companies have to make money, and I often hate them for doing this, but their API, the free API, only allows me to grab data from the last 7 days. Any data that's older than that can't be accessed through the free account. You actually have to pay them per API request. So, considering I have no money, I didn't go with a premium account, right? So, my saying, as always, and this is probably relatable to a lot of the programmers in the room, but there's a will, there's a way. So long as you can get the data, you can view anything in a browser, there is a way to get that data. So what was my workaround for this particular limitation? I used two very popular Python packages. The first one is Selenium, and it's a package that allows you to control a browser programmatically. Tell it to go to this particular location, get this particular HTTP request, type in a particular text in a particular text box, all those sorts of things. Right? So I use Selenium to create a headless browser, meaning there is a browser in the CPU process, but you don't actually see the application pop. Right? And then Beautiful Soup is the Python package used to read HTTP data or website data. So the general idea here is that I used Selenium to search in the homepage of Twitter the different tweets for a hashtag, which in this case was BGC. And then after I'm able to load all of the data, basically I'm using the Twitter API, Twitter search API that's available in the twitter.com/search-advanced. After you load all of the data, you can actually see in the HTML data, that the ID of each particular tweet is available there. It's stored as a data attribute in the HTML. Okay? So my hack is basically have a particular headless browser load all of the tweets, and yes, the browser was operating on its own. And then once it's loaded all of the different tweets with that particular hashtag, use Beautiful Soup just to grab the list elements that contain the ID of each tweet. Right? At that point, I can use the search API. One of the things that you can do with the search API is actually look for the tweet of a particular ID. And that actually does not have any time limitations. So long as you have a particular tweet in, for example, 2009, so long as you have an ID, you can get the data from that particular tweet. Right? So that was my workaround with this. After I got the data set in JSON format, obviously, because it's a RESTful API, I had to do some data wrangling. First one I had to do, make sure that none of the tweets were actually retweets. Now, I had to do a little bit of understanding how Twitter actually works, because part of the problem with tweets is that each of your retweet is actually considered a tweet. It's a tweet of a different tweet, but it has a unique ID in and of itself. And they have a particular data in the JSON, which is called isRetweet. So it basically allows you to filter out all the tweets that were basically just retweets of a main tweet, right? So I had to make sure that none of them are retweets or they were source tweets. Making sure that none of them are just links to a Facebook page or an Instagram page. One thing that's usually very prominent now is people linking on Twitter with a link in there. My problem there is that although I would have loved to work with Facebook and Instagram APIs as well, their APIs don't actually allow you to grab data even from public accounts. They closed that. Closed that part of their API back in 2015 or something. Before then, you could actually analyze it. But considering the problems that Facebook has been having with their data, it's good to know that it's not easy to get that, right? And then last one, and this is an important part, making sure that all of the tweets that I currently have, after all the different data wrangling I've done, are in pure English. The reason for this is because we actually wanted to do a sentiment analysis. And a sentiment analysis is a natural language processing technique that allows you to get the subjective nature of a particular text paragraph, or in this instance, I like to call them as text blob. It's funny to think about them as text blob, but to be honest, paragraphs are just a series of words. Alright? So for that case, I use the particular Python package. It's text blob, which connects to NLTK. NLTK is the natural language. Basically, they're the foremost institute in natural language processing techniques and datasets to be used for NLP techniques. Alright, since we already removed all the Tagalog and Taglish tweets from the dataset, all of the tweets should return a valid sentiment. So this is an example of a sentiment analysis visualized. You have a particular paragraph, so that's the paragraph, and then all of the different blue lines are actually part text blobs that were considered to be of a positive sentiment. The red part is a negative sentiment. And then all the different words with a particular icon in the upper left is considered a multiplier or an additive. It increases or decreases the sentiment based on whether it's a target or not a target of a particular positive sentiment. So for example, I hate Carl. I don't actually hate Carl. But for example, I hate Carl. Hate there gives you a negative sentiment. And then Carl is the object of that sentiment. So all the different objects there, the ones with the upper left icon, those are objects that can multiply or not multiply the sentiment. Alright? So this is how sentiment analysis works in a nutshell. Okay. We have our data available, all of the tweets, the text, the ID, who tweeted it, how many times it was retweeted, all of those data. We've done our sentiment analysis using text blob. Now, it's time to visualize. It's time for me to be able to tell the story of what happened in Castle BGC. So for that, I actually leveraged the power of browsers. There's a new thing, it's a new hip thing that people like to do. It's called Scrollytelling. I don't really like how it's being called right now, but that's actually what they call it. It's called Scrollytelling. And the general idea there is that in storytelling, in data storytelling, you're often limited to one page. And then you have to link multiple pages together. In dashboards, you're limited to the real estate of your dashboard. Scrollytelling basically wins over all those things because the real estate you have is only limited by how lazy or how much one person can scroll to. And there are a couple of different storytelling stories available on the internet that are beautifully written, right? So I wanted to do a storytelling. For that, I asked some help from some friends. I used a D3, a powerful and flexible JS visualization package. Well, actually, D3 is not just a visualization package. It's also a data document package. But that's beside the point. So for that, I asked for some help from my friends. Here is Robin Ramos, a data analyst at DataSeer, and she's really good. She's better at B3 than me. Seen here, completing a pie chart tooltip of a pie chart. And then here we have Jay Manahan, our lead data storyteller. Seen here, reacting to the pie chart tooltip in a pie chart. Alright? Okay, so there were people that helped me along in creating this storytelling. So, can we load the website now? Let's see if this actually works. Alright, so what we have here, basically just a landing page. You don't actually have to go with the story right away. So we have our title. I work for DataSeer, so I placed the DataSeer logo there just because I did this for DataSeer. We have the intro to our story. What is Cats of BGC? So it was a hot topic in the Philippines, and the way I did my Scrollytelling was to cut up the different stories based on the timeline. Right? So the first timeline we have is actually starting in 2012. That was the first time when there was, can we zoom out a bit? Kaya. Hindi kaya. Alright, there you go. Konti pa. Yan. Alright. Okay, so the first tweets that contained hashtag Cats of BGC and Cats of BGC just as a word, as a phrase, was back in 2012. And that was actually not about any of the cats in Bonifacio Global City. And this was a really fun discovery because that was actually about Cat Washington from a show in the US called Bad Girls Club, which is BGC. So that particular person had a hashtag, and their hashtag was Cat of BGC, right? So all the tweets you see, can I use this right there? That's actually all the different tweets from that particular group or data set right there. You can see the different sentiments that the text actually written. Red means it was a negative sentiment. Green means it's a positive, very positive sentiment. And the gray ones are basically just right in the middle, right? So the thing with Kat from BGC is that she was a very controversial figure. That's why she generated a lot of tweets. She was basically like the Kim Kardashian of BGC. I had to research this because it was part of the EDA that I had to do. All right? Now, the first tweet that actually featured the cats from BGC was in 2013. Can we scroll down? Oh, 14. There we go. So, in 2014, the first real tweet about an actual feline in BGC happened. And at that time, the tweets were basically just, oh, look at this cute cat. That was hashtag cats of BGC. Or, oh, this is my friend. Hashtag cats of BGC. And we've leveraged the power of TV to be able to use that using a tooltip. And if you actually try to, can you try hovering over one particular tweet? There you go. It loads the tweet. Loads how many retweets that particular tweet got, how many likes, who tweeted it, how many followers does he have or she have, and when did he or she tweet it. And then you can actually get to see the particular tweet. Alright? Alright. So 2014, that was the first signs of any tweets. There were just a couple of them. You can see them right there at the top. Just a few of them. But it was actually in 2015 and 16 when it started to get a little bit more stories. There we go. You can see that the tweets were mostly positives. There were mostly green tweets right there. And again, as I said, most of those tweets were basically just, hey you, look at this cute cat. Please like my post. Alright? And then, in 2018, February 10, 2018, I hope we can see that. Can you scroll up a bit more? There we go. All the different tweets were actually, that particular blog are all the tweets from 2018. So you can see, well, the zooming in of the browser actually destroyed the perspective of the Scrollytelling story. But the general idea here is we wanted to show that there was an explosion of tweets with the hashtag cats of BGC or contains the phrase cats of BGC, right? So notice how big the packed bubble chart is. Notice how many red negative tweets there were. One of them was actually, can you highlight the big red one? The other one, I think it's that. Okay, so the Twitter doesn't work. There it is. Yeah, it's from CNN. So their story was actually one of the negative tweets that sparked this entire thing. The size of the bubble, by the way, I forgot to mention this, was the total number of retweets and likes that a particular tweet got. So the bigger it is, the more impactful that particular tweet is. Alright? So, taking it back to the last, can you scroll down a bit? Just so we can get an overall view. Okay, down pa. Yan. Okay pa. A bit more. There we go. So, we decided as a last feature to split the path bubble chart into January, February, and March. And basically say that the issue of cats of BGC is died out. It was a shitstorm. Sorry for the word. It was a shitstorm back in February. But as soon as March came in, people started forgetting about the cats of BGC. And people were moving on to the next social phenomenon. Right? So, can we go back to the PowerPoint? Thank you, Jay. Alright, so thanks to these wonderful fellows and their very, very awesome photos. Let's review the pipeline here. We've learned a little bit about how APIs work, what is an API, why it's important to use an API that's RESTful, usually for data analysis, right? So, for scraping the data, we use a hack. You can technically just use a Python package to get all the data using an API that you can buy, so that you have unlimited API requests. But in my case, since I was using a free version, I used Beautiful Soup to parse out the HTML and Selenium to simulate the browser so that I can trick Twitter into giving me the IDs for each individual tweet. Afterwards, I had to do some wrangling and analysis. I had to read the JSON into a data frame using the pandas package in Python. Fun fact, does anyone know what pandas mean? Why is it called pandas? This is always a fun trivia that I ask. No one? Pandas is actually panel datas. So it's called pandas. So just a fun fact that you can give to your data science friends. Pandas, panel data, right? So pandas is the package I use to convert the JSON into a data frame, perform some wrangling in them, along with text log, which allowed me to parse out which words were in English, which words were in Tagalog, and in trying to identify which words, what language were each word, I was able to identify which tweets were in pure English, which tweets were in Taglish, and so forth. And then the last part, I used D3, and obviously a browser, to perform my Scrollytelling visualization. Right? So, That was the entire exercise that I did. I'm having a lot of, I'm actually very addicted to accessing data from different programs using their APIs. A lot of the different applications you use are actually have a free API that you can use, right? So what are the limitations of what I did? The first and most obvious one is limitations of the social media platform that I use. If you must know, the first social media post that actually started the entire thing was a Facebook post. It was a long Facebook post by a person who travels along that route often, visits those camps. So she was the first social media post about that entire phenomenon. I couldn't include that because of the limitations of Facebook API and the limitations as well of Instagram API, which is actually owned by Facebook. So they're now sharing an API design, right? And also, there are a couple of NLP limitations. One, as of now, the free NLP package that you can use from NLTK only allows for English sentiment analysis. If I wanted to do a Tagalog sentiment analysis, I would have to buy a package from a company. I forgot, Senti.ph, I think is their name. They're a company here in the Philippines that actually does sentiment analysis in Tagalog. And if I'm not mistaken, Senti is the company behind Rappler's mood board. They were the company that provides their services for analyzing happy, sad, angry, all that, right? And then last one, and this should have been pretty obvious from the Scrollytelling story, is that NLP still can decipher figures of speech better than humans. A lot of the different tweets there, noticed in the February 2018 pack bubble chart, were actually green. And that's a bit weird. I actually found that a little bit weird. In reality, a lot of the tweets were actually sarcastic. Because by nature, Filipinos are sarcastic. Right? We like to be sarcastic about how we insult people. That includes Shangri-La. Right? So, a lot of the tweets were actually sarcastic, and the NLP package, the sentiment that it returned actually was incorrect. But I just wanted to show that it is possible to do a sentiment analysis using a free package, right? So, as I said, I'm a bit addicted to APIs right now. I'm trying to get all of the data that all of you are trying to access. Don't worry, it's anonymized. All of you are just IDs in my data set. What I have right now, or at least I've tried to access Zomato API. We've gotten restaurant reviews, and we've actually included this in DataSeer's courses. We actually use Zomato reviews, right? Another one, albums, artists, and usages in Spotify. You can actually access it using a Spotify free API. Again, there are limitations to what you can do with a free API. In Zomato, you're limited to, if I'm not mistaken, either 500 or 1,000 API requests per day. So you have to control for what you do. In Spotify, I think it's also a limit in API requests. And then the last one, and it's the most obvious one, Google services. One of the things I actually tried to analyze was, one, my emails, and my location data. I actually wanted to know where I visited the most in the Philippines, right? So that's it. I talked a lot about API, RESTful APIs, and I hope all of you start to understand how important a proper RESTful API design is to a good storytelling and machine learning exercise.